he has dominated everyone he has fought. He had a hard time with Gleason Tebow. Everyone talks about that. But I think everyone told me that did he lose a round in that fight?
No.
Someone kept telling me that he lost in that fight. He should have lost.
No, God, no.
I didn't think so either.
No. He lost. I'm trying to think of the first round that I could say. I know Connor, he lost a round. I think it was the third round. I would have said he lost.
It was close.
Other than that, let's figure out. Wow, Michael Johnson, he didn't lose anything.
Michael Johnson, Quinta
Trujillo, he didn't lose any of those.
Edson Barbosa.
I don't see him. No, didn't lose a round. I did that one.
I cornered him for Thiago Tavares. I cornered him for Abel Trujillo. I cornered him for Pat Healy, and I cornered him for Rafael Dos Anjos. And then everybody else after that.
Any of those?
No, he didn't lose any rounds in those. I mean, Pat Healy's known for wrestling, like wrestling guys just grinding on people. He's a big guy. He's about 6'1", walks around 190 something. And he was ragdolling Pat around. Khabib was. I mean, all these guys. I thought there was never a round I thought that Edson Barbosa, he did hit that spinning back kick, but it hit with the calf and kind of like. But that would be the only. I mean, I'm just throwing. I'm trying to like play the other side because people are gonna just roast me like saying you're a homer and this and that.
No, you're not a homer. I did that fight. That was my last fight I ever did in the UFC, and trust me, Edson was fighting for his life.
Yeah,
you could just see, man. He didn't lose. Khabib won every round easily and several 10-8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Justin, look, there's no doubt Justin has a chance, and I think people, I want people to understand, I'm a huge fan of Justin Gaethje. I think he's phenomenal for the sport. But I also look at guys that he has fought from before. Sure, I feel like he's a different fighter since he fought Luis Formigo. They called him Buscapi back in the day.
Oh, yeah, Buscapi.
But
that was in the World Series of Fighting.
That was his last fight in the World Series of Fighting before I think they switched names to PFL. Jake, what's it called? John Fitch was on that fight as well. I think he fought Jake Shields that night. I went to go corner him for that fight. Oh, stop it. But that fight, he showed that he had a hard time in that fight with some guy. And I think he was getting taken. I believe he got taken down. He was losing some of the exchanges.
He got taken down in that fight.
Yeah. And so to think that, don't get me wrong, everyone talked about how good his wrestling is. Yes, he's got a good wrestling. He's got a good pedigree for wrestling.
He's got a good pedigree. So do a lot of guys. And it's different when, you're trying to wrestling is a different sport, and it's like as soon as you set your feet to punch, you're out of wrestling position.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as someone drops the level and that punch doesn't land, you are in a horrible position to defend that takedown. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough to do it against some guys that, their wrestling is as of your level, or even maybe just a little bit better than your level. But I hate to tell you, there's a huge level difference between the wrestling that Khabib does and the wrestling that Justin does. And Justin has gotten away from his wrestling for years.
Mm-hmm.
As far as he practices, there's no doubt he does practice his wrestling for MMA. But what is most of his game plan when he goes into a fight? How many times have you seen Justin Gaethje shooting for a takedown?
Even when he's in trouble, he doesn't shoot for a takedown.
How many times have you seen Justin Gaethje shooting for a takedown?
I can't recall, man.
Okay, there you go. And that's the whole point, is he doesn't. Okay, because he relies on what he likes, and that is to be that highlight reel of knocking people out. And I'm going to stand here and look, he is a tough dude. And there is no human being in the world who is punch proof. So could Justin Gaethje land a shot that knocks Khabib Nurmagomedov out? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
No one's punch proof, but the odds of landing that one punch are not very good.
No.
And so you're looking at odds wise, where does this fight land? It lands in the same place that every fight that Khabib Nurmagomedov has ever been in. And that is, especially now, everybody knows what he's going to do. What makes him special is Everybody knows what he's going to do, and they can't stop it.
Yeah.
And until someone does, and it may be Justin that stops it. But I just don't see that it's a matchup the way Justin fights and the way Khabib fights that you can sit there and think that Justin is in a position where he would be a favorite in this fight or anything like that. He's definitely going to be a guy that's at a disadvantage going into this fight.
Yeah. Khabib will look in the very first round. Justin's got a very good chance until that first takedown. And then after that first takedown, you have to understand the amount of weight and the amount of pressure that Khabib puts on you. When Justin does start the second round, he will not be the same fighter.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you a question. See, because this is where people don't get it. Because until you have trained with or rolled with or sparred with an individual, it's just there's conceptually you can say, well, I could do this, I could do that. People ask me all the time, what was it like training with Rickson Gracie? Different than anybody I had ever trained with in my entire life at that time or in the future. A guy that could pinpoint a pressure by making it like, instead of this, weight that's on top of you, drive his weight into where he felt like he was 500 pounds. Okay. You trained with Khabib. Mm-hmm. What's it like when he gets you down and you're trying to get up?
So like when I train with him, I originally had started doing like where you gather the legs and figure four. If you go back and look at some of my earlier fights, I've been doing that for years. There was nothing, and I figured out ways to get other people, not to John Fitz try to do it to me, and I'd find ways to get away from it. Swick used to do it because he had long legs. He'd try to do it to me as well. I was always able to get out, or at least wiggle your way around so you could get a knee up or something to try to hit a hook sweep. With Khabib, once he pinches his knees around yours and starts to lock that figure four, you're not fucking moving. You're not moving. And then the other thing, even if you do, let's say you're slippery and you're able to wiggle one leg out, he hangs on that leg and he hangs on your hip. So when you post on your hands, he reaches around the far side and he gets the Dagestani handcuffs. Like he starts driving his weight up over you, putting your face back down on the mat. He starts keeping his chest and his hips over your back to push your body down. You try to stand up, he pushes your head down. You cannot get up if your head is down on the mat. And so he holds the head down, and as you're trying to get up, he keeps his body over yours. So you're constantly lifting his body. And by the time you fight, even though you weighed in at 155, he's probably about 180, 178, 177. He likes to fight around that weight class because that's where he feels the best. And so you're carrying all that weight. And for all these people, this is not a homer. I'm being 100% honest with you guys. I've seen him wrestle with guys that are 3-time national champs. I've seen him wrestle with guys that are phenomenal, like number 2, number 3 on the Olympic ladder, okay, for the US. And he's able to take them down. He's able to stuff their takedowns. He's able to wrestle with them at just strictly wrestling. No punching, no striking. We're talking wrestling, okay? Like, let's touch hands, get in our wrestling stance, and you are not taking me down. I've had these conversations with him and Islam, and they will literally give you a single leg because they know that they can bounce on their foot longer than you can try to take them down. And the way they have wrist control, the way they cover the hips, the way they hit their whizzers, the way that they are able to kind of like even break your balance and foot sweep you while you think you're the one being offensive, they're just fucking with you. And it really comes down to that. It's like you think you have a single leg. Well, they're just setting you up for a hip toss when you go to run into them and they hit you to a flare. They know what they're doing. There's a difference. It's not even the fact that they are, like when you're talking folk style wrestling, which is what a lot of these guys in the UFC are using, that type of wrestling versus that Sambo / Olympic caliber Russian wrestling. Style. It's completely different wrestling. And the Sambo style wrestling has foot sweeps, has hip toss, has mixture of judo mixed in with regular wrestling. They'll do stuff that you won't normally see. Go and look at the video of Chase Saldana, anyways, from Gilroy High School. Islam hits him with this fucking, I don't even know what it is. He grabs a wrist control. He sweeps him down almost like a little leg sweep.
He whips him around.
Yeah, he whips him around right to his back. These are things that you don't see from guys, you know, that unless you're wrestling on the Olympic tour, like, you know, and you're out there wrestling internationally against other guys, you pick up these type of things. DC, like, it's crazy to see these guys, what they do. So when people are talking about Khabib, like, maybe not having to get a takedown, maybe he won't get a takedown or two, but he will eventually get one. And when he does, Khabib, if Justin doesn't get up, he will be a different fighter by the time he gets back to his feet. There won't be as much pop in his punch. There won't be as much speed, and there won't be as much power on it. All of those things together will make it a different fight. And every takedown he gets moving forward will make it harder and harder for Justin to win the fight. I'm not knocking Justin. I'm just telling you guys from my perspective. I'm telling you from my perspective what you guys should expect to see. Does he have a puncher's chance? Yes. Does almost every fighter has a puncher's chance? Does he have more of a puncher's chance? Yes, because he's got some fucking dogs in his hands. You know, he's got big power and he just walks people down. He did fight a really smart fight against Tony Ferguson. And if he fights that style fight, I give him more of a chance. But do I think he wins? Absolutely not. And I don't think you're going to see anything different from Khabib than what he normally does. And just like you saw with everybody else he's ever fought, he's going to dominate from beginning to end the whole fight.
100% agree. Okay.